Hey.
Oh. Hey.
Can you teach us how to do winter camping?
Okay. Follow us.
So we picked our location, nice and open, nice and flat. Maureen here is stomping it down. You always want to make sure that you're wearing snowshoes when you're stomping it down. And then once she stomps it out, we'll wait about an hour before we put the tent over top. And during that time, it's a perfect opportunity to go fetch wood and chop it and get it ready. So we've waited an hour, our area is nice and stomped down. We're now gonna pull our tent out of the tent bag, and we decided we want our door to be here, so we're gonna lay it out flat and orient it so the door is facing this way. Alright, so we've laid out our tent flat, we've pulled it taut. And now we're gonna put sticks in these loops just to hold it in place before we erect the center pole. So I'm just gonna put a stick in there and drive it deep so it holds its place. Okay, so we've got sticks in each of the loops. So the next step is to erect the center pole. So we're gonna get Maureen, since she's got the snowshoes, to get in there and put it up.
After somewhat popping the tent up fully and securing all the corners, we've now come to require a dead man anchor. Let's show you how that's built.
So this is for like when you don't have trees to run it to, or it's nice sometimes to put in the dead man anchor because then you can walk around the tent easier and there's not lines in the way. So basically what I'm just gonna do here is kick out a trench, and then I'm gonna get a stick and put it on top of the rope. Like that. And then I'm just gonna kick snow on top of it. And it might take about 30 minutes or whatever for it to set in. Just put some more snow on it. And then what we'll do is I'll tie a taut line onto here so that I can cinch it tight, and then I'll find like a stick that's shaped like a Y kind of, just to put it here to keep that up like that.
So now that we've got the other parts of the tent set up, including all the corners and the midlines and our dead man anchors, now we can start piling snow on the outside of the entire tent. Now you'll see there's a bit of this tarp-like material. You're gonna want to flap that outside of the tent and stack your snow on top. And if you have a shovel, of course that's preferable, but if not, you can always use your sleds or your toboggans to shovel in a lot of snow at once. So what might not have been clear on the time lapse is how the ground pegs and the snow that it was in was a bit shallow. So we end up having to do the piling around the perimeter as sort of our first means of keeping that down. So it's really hard packed. This is the morning now after that we slept in it, but it's really hard packed stuff. So after piling snow around the entire perimeter of the tent, we'll take a focus on what we need to do inside. And so right away, as you'll notice, Cav is digging out what we call a cold sink, where all the cold air in the tent will pool and the fresher air from outside will travel straight to the oven. It'll keep things a lot warmer inside. And what else is going on? is the bow placement around the perimeter.
We can. So now that we've wrapped up everything outside pretty well, we're gonna bring the tent in and get it set up. So what I've got here, or
Gonna bring the stove in.
We'll bring the oven in, right?
bring the oven in. So now we got the oven in here, and we've got these sticks here to keep it propped up. And they've got to be pretty long because they don't have to be as long as they are. We have them at like 10 feet. That's just to play it safe. But basically this stove will heat up the snow underneath and melt it. And if you just have it propped up on short sticks or no sticks at all, it could fall over in the night and could be pretty dangerous. So you want long sticks. So we've got it right over this cold well. So hopefully the cold air will sit down here, and hopefully the air that the fire uses will come from underneath and not the warm air that we're trying to get.
Exactly. And so we'll resurrect the legs and use the wires to fasten the oven down, and then we'll get to building the chimney.
Okay, so we've got everything out of the stove now. So we're gonna get the legs up now. Oh, and I'll just tilt it back that way. Get one leg down, two legs down, and we'll sit it on there. And then the legs have wires on them here. So yeah, we'll just wire up all these legs. Just like that. Okay, so now that we've got our stove fastened to these logs, this is the chimney, so it all packs up as one. So we'll separate them and put them together. We'll show how that's done. So basically, they come apart like that. They're open, and you're just trying to get the grooves to line up like so. And then, so you want that side going down. There snaps into place, and then when you're done to get them out, you push down. Push down and like that. This is the first piece that you want to use. So this one will go in first, and that way you can choose what direction you want it to go. And then I'm going to use this one instead. Okay, and then we're just gonna put all these together, not like this, but we're gonna put them all together lying down in the tent first, then put it all up as one.
As one.
To put them together, you're just gonna find the crinkled end. The crinkled end goes with the smooth end. Just like that. So just go like that until you get them all. And typically you want about two lengths of these coming out the top. We'll show a view when we go outside, but if you only have about one of these poking out, you're more likely to have sparks landing on your tent.
So now we've got a full-length chimney, and we're gonna just put it through as one big piece through the roof.
With the crimp end facing down. So the crimped end's gonna go into that smooth end, basically. Should go in nicely.
There.
Just like that. If you want to come outside with us now. So we've got an extra length here, but we don't really need it. We've got about 2.5 lengths coming out the top, so that should be plenty.
So now that we've completed setting up the stove, we've now laid down an extra layer of blankets on top of the boughs, because what we did show you before was maybe not the amount of boughs that you would want, but we just didn't want to kill too many branches. And now where the stack of wood goes, you've got your nighttime supply of varying sizes of wood. If you desire to keep the stove on, and even if you don't, if it does end up getting cold, you have the option to restart it.
Yeah, so there's kind of a dilemma that people have when they go winter camping often, which is, do we keep the stove running all night, or do we just let it peter out, kind of? And everyone has their different take on it, and I guess it also depends on the temperature of that night. But usually my train of thought is I like to let it go out during the night and just start it up in the morning. Yeah, I find it can just be a little bit of a pain because it doesn't take long for the fire to be completely out and no coals burning at all, and so you have to start from scratch. And so unless someone is willing to kind of wake up every couple hours and keep it going, or start it if it needs to, I find that to be a bit of a pain. Whereas if you go to bed with it warm in here, and then you just kind of try to hold on to your warmth as best you can, ride it out. You might get a little bit chilly in the late hours of the morning, but when you wake up, you can just start it up again. Mm-hmm. And also, you don't want it to get too hot. You really want to make sure that it doesn't get too hot. The stove will start turning red when it gets really hot. A little bit of red is no problem, but if it's filling up this whole stove, or if it starts climbing up here, that's no good. And you want to shut off the oxygen. Do you want to show them how to shut the...
It's also pretty unnecessary, considering this tent does have the ability to retain a lot of heat. But you do have oxygen control here. And then to give a shout out to Jim Little, his invention that forces air through the bottom, where you don't need to play around with this wheel as much. So yeah, it's a really well-functioning stove. If you want to be warm, you will be, but it is not the kind of stove that you can be cooking things on. It's just for warmth. So another thing to keep in mind while we're out here is what we're actually wearing. And so I will talk about some of those materials that are really beneficial. The first one is canvas. And the thing about canvas is that it does really well against sparks, unlike down and synthetic materials which burn. And inside this canvas jacket that I have, there's wool. And those are the two best materials that you can have. They promote the most warmth, and they have the quickest drying capabilities as well. On top of the materials, you can find a lot of those materials in almost every piece of kit that you might want out here. But aside from the materials, I'll have Maureen explain the layers.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over what I'm wearing. So on my bottom layer, the first layer closest to my skin, I've got a moisture wicking layer. For me, that's just athletic leggings and an athletic long sleeve. This is really good because you're doing chores out here and you're going to get sweaty. So you don't want to be wet, because when you're wet, you're cold. And then I have a pair of fleece pants on and a base layer top. And then on top of all of that, I have my wool blend overalls and a wool shirt, or sweater, sorry. So yeah, all of these things put together keep me nice and warm and dry.
I'll talk about footwear now. So warm boots are obviously good. Ideally like waterproof. is best. The ones where you, like any boots where you can remove the liner is great for drying overnight. Mucklucks are commonly used, so if you have those are awesome. And then yeah, so I'm just wearing like insulated rubber boots with a removable insole. Yeah. Vlog episode.
Okay, hey everyone. We're outside in our outdoor kitchen, and what are we making?
Lasagna.
We're making lasagna.
Yep. And so today's lasagna is going to consist of the typical layers, just tomato sauce, ricotta, and noodles. But we also have a special ingredient, which is bear meat in this one.
And then what we're gonna do with the fire, we'll show when we do it, but we're gonna cook it beside the fire. We're gonna have coals underneath it. Then we'll put the Dutch oven on top of the coals, then put this lid on, and then we can just put coals right on the lid, and just keep putting coals, making sure that there's always hot ones on. And it should take about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just finishing up the last layer of lasagna here in the Dutch oven. So once I get all this cheese on there, I'll be bringing it to the coal field that we made over there, and we can start cooking this thing beside our fire.
Yeah, we're just gonna put it right here. Have the coals starting popping down.
And if it is close to the fire, which ours may be, you're gonna give it a little spin every once in a while.
Yeah, we'll put some fresh coals underneath it, and we'll put some coals on top of it too.
Yeah. So here's the finished product. The lasagna made by Dutch oven. And as you can see over here, we've got our our fancy lid that can contain the coals, and it did a really good job. And so we're gonna let it cool and enjoy it for dinner tonight.
That's probably...
Oh, she's steamy.
Do you guys have your own spoons that you use?
Yeah.
Would you rather use?
So our stove is running at a low temperature that is working out really well for us. It's really warm in here, and none of the walls are red, so success. And on top of that, we did move it away from the post a bit, the two hot plates holding the stove, and we also extended the ground sink to come up into here so that it's sort of just an all-around feature that we can access, and it's been working out very well. So it's time to take our oven setup apart.
So you want to make sure that you have gloves that are good on hot metal if it's still hot, which in this case it is still a little bit hot. So the first step, we're going to grab the chimney and lift up and keep the stove still. He's going to lift that up. Perfect. We'll bring it outside. And then, yeah, now we'll grab the stove.
And now the gloves are more important since the stove tends to be hot. Oh, it's still buckled down.
Oh yeah, gotta make sure the wires are off. Nice. Okay. Now we're good to lift it. 3, 2, 1. if it's still hot or even if it's still going inside, you can leave it out. And when people leave the tent, they can warm up by it.
We'll pour that contents into our secondary fire pit.
You do a butterfly coil starting at the tent, leaving 1.5 feet or so from that point, keeping your hand on the butterfly. You wrap around and cinch up those butterflied portions at your hand. Okay?
Cocoon that butterfly.
You cocoon the butterfly. Good analogy. Once you get to a point like that, then you can do tight wraps towards where your hand used to be. And you put a bite of rope through that cinched up butterfly coil. Then you take a couple of strands downstream of that noosed area. I don't know if noosed is proper term, but anyway, what that does is it helps keep that whole nest of rope together. And then when you get unraveling your tent at your site, at the next site, all you have to do is take this end and walk out to where you got to tie it out, and it unravels that whole coil that you just butterflied earlier.